Welcome back to the Alchemical Life podcast. It is your host, Abigail Crow speaking, and I'm a strength coach specializing in helping runners build strength that translates to performance. I got like 6 years of coaching experience training clients from ages 8 to 80, from people who are just everyday athletes to people who are currently currently in the NFL. My mission's pretty simple. It's just help you get stronger, faster, forever through smart training. So welcome. If you're new, and if you are not new, what's up, bro? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something that is pretty near and dear to my heart, to be honest. I was thinking about topics that I wanted to podcast on, and this one was one that I just was like, it just hit me, and I was like, yep, this is what I want to talk about, and it is burnout. I have an episode on burnout that I've talked about, it was probably one of my first few episodes, but I want this to be burnout specific to runners, and it's not because it's that much different, but I think that it can hit home with some of you guys and resonate with some of you guys who are endurance athletes, when it comes to some of the symptoms and the next steps. So I have personally experienced burnout, and I think there's two types. I think there's a acute and a chronic, acute and chronic burnout, which is acute is, a smaller duration, lower duration period of the symptoms that I'm going to list below. And the chronic is when it's obviously just really the symptoms are worse and they also are extending for long periods of time. And oftentimes when you are experiencing this long chronic bout of burnout, it reflects in your overall health and your blood work, and it can be really hard to get back on track. At least me personally, when I experienced it, it became very hard to get back on track because any little deviation in terms of too much training or stress or lifing, it completely derails your progress. So let's first define what burnout is. And burnout, based on the World Health Organization, defines it as feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's jobs, or feelings of negativism or cynicism. They don't know that an idiot is reading this currently. God, you gotta choose better words. Feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, or a sense of ineffectiveness that I felt currently just trying to pronounce the word, a sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. So both physical and mental, I define it as both psychological and physiological decreases in performance and quality of life for an extended period of time. That was my definition. I think mine's better, but whatever. So what are some symptoms of burnout? And again, there's two types of burnout. There's the, hey, we might need to take a couple weeks. And then there's burnout where it's like, hey, we might need to take a year, to really get back on track. So what are some symptoms? Obviously, just for the periods of really chronic excessive burnout, just think longer periods of time, and worse. The symptoms are worse. But fatigue, inability to sleep even when you're tired, high stress, GI issues, if you're a female, missed periods, depression, decreased productivity, physiological symptoms like a low HRV, a higher resting heart rate, increased blood pressure, nagging injuries or injuries that may not have been an issue before that are becoming real recurring issues or more severe. Body aches as well is another symptom. And then isolation from sport and community and hating your sport. So if you are a runner, it'd be essentially beginning to skip your group runs, skip out on your runs in general, really just have no motivation to run, really just start disliking running, waking up and just being completely unenthused with the idea of running at all. And I think the irony for runners with burnout is you're burnt out by the thing that you love. You actually you might even hate it right now, but you are burnt out by the thing that you enjoy doing. And what usually alleviates that stress, the feelings of, depression or the mental symptoms of burnout, the psychological symptoms of burnout are usually alleviated by the thing that's giving you the sensation of burnout. And that's what happened to me. It was not running, but it was just my training and my work, which I loved both of those things very much. I love my job and I absolutely love working out and training, and now it's running. But in that time period when I was experiencing burnout, I was doing a lot of things. I was underfueling, I was overworking, and I was also overtraining really all at once. And I thought I was Superwoman. I wasn't really sleeping. And then when I was really tired, I wasn't getting, I wasn't able to sleep very well. And I just was not rested. And I had symptoms. I had all of those symptoms, actually. And eventually, I am not somebody, I've never gotten my blood work done, but I went and got blood work done about 6 months after it started getting really, really noticeably bad. And things just continued to not really let up very much, even after I had taken some time off and I had, tried to get back to doing things that decrease stress and, increase my increase food and nutrition, like nutrient quality. And it was just, things were not letting up. That's another thing I'll get into later, which is just the coming back from burnout and how to handle it. But I got blood work done, and my blood work came back quite disgusting. I had low-level candida growth. I was borderline anemic. I was deficient in magnesium, vitamin D, or low, or on the scary end, just on the red flag end of in all of my B vitamins, all of my amino acids, or most of my B vitamins, all of my amino acids, which is crazy because I'm a protein girly. Magnesium, vitamin D, iron. My T3 was excessively low. There were quite a few. This is just like the beginning. There was a lot, and it felt really debilitating because actually in that time I'd already taken some time off. And my version of taking time off, and I thought, I should be feeling better by now. That's why I got the blood work done. And turns out your body doesn't care if you're ready to get back to work. It's not. So, it was really horrible because the things that I had to take time away from or manage better were the things that I absolutely loved to do. They were also the things that were giving me all of the horrible symptoms. So I had to make a much more reasonable work schedule for myself. I had to work on managing my training volume and making sure that I only had quality sessions in there and that I wasn't doing a bunch of additional extra things. And it's really, really tough. So I think if you're going through burnout, I empathize with you because through all of it, I honestly should have had journal entries prepared for this, but through all of it, it's the psychological that is to me the worst. I was very, very much going through a rough period of time in my life in terms of mentally. I was not doing very well. I felt very depressed, very low energy. I had no desire or motivation to do much at all. So ironically, even though I wanted to train and I wanted to work out, I had no desire or care really about anything. So it was really hard, and there was an extended period of time where I just didn't really want to be around anybody, frankly, because I didn't want to be around myself, and so I didn't want to, harsh the mood at all around other people. When you're going through burnout, I think mentally the biggest piece of advice that I can give is know that it can and will end if you allow it to, and hang in there. It's not fun. But real action steps, and I'll go back to going deep a little bit more, but I don't want to, again, be like a Debbie Downer, especially if you are experiencing burnout and you're just like, man, this is rough. This is so bad. I do want to give some actionable steps because you can do things and it will get better. So I would say the first thing to do is really just look for other hobbies. So if you're running is your thing, find a couple of other things that can be your thing. And they don't have to be physical activities, but it can be something that is much less stress and it requires much less of your body to do. So, the occasional game of pickleball with your friends, or pottery, or yoga, or I'm trying to think of other things. Meditation in general. That also goes hand in hand with replace the high energy activities with lower energy activities. So instead of saying, I just can't do all of these things, so I'm just going to sit there and twiddle my thumbs, which is the worst thing you can do when you're experiencing burnout, is just absolutely sit and ruminate, is replace the stuff that you would normally do, like your bike or your swim or your run, and instead, as a placeholder, put some other really awesome, more restorative activity in there. So it might be painting, journaling, meditation, yoga, not necessarily like some crazy hot yoga flow, maybe a yin class, or it could be archery or shooting. Find another hobby that allows for you to still challenge yourself, have something to get up and look forward to in your day, but not something that's going to necessarily put your body back into a state of complete disarray, which burnout has done. And I think the other thing is, because the running, it creates such a community. It usually is surrounded by such a community. That's where all of our friends are. So it's like, we're running, I'm with my friends. If I'm not with my friends, I don't have anybody, connect with your peeps in different ways. So this is when it's like, you really need to reach out to your people and find, have a breakfast with them, or maybe instead of a walk or a run, go on a walk with one of them or two of them. Be able to extend invitations to those people and meet them in different ways and let them meet you in different ways. And oftentimes I think that when you can explain to people that you're like, hey, I'm just feeling really burnt out and I still want to connect with you and I'd like to do this thing, you'll find that you'd be surprised at how many people will respond, not just positively and wanting to meet you and empathetically, but also from a sense of relatability. Because I think a lot of people do experience burnout in the acute state sense of the word and do not say anything and just try to handle it and get over it themselves. And that can be really tough. And when it becomes a chronic issue, that's when, things can start getting really bad. But in the acute sense, me personally, and I've witnessed with a lot of my clients, that it's just something that they don't even talk about. They don't want to recognize. They have a hard time facing themselves, and they never want to discuss with other people, because it feels like they are complaining, nagging, being a victim, or being overdramatic. And you're not. Life just can be hard sometimes. So having a way to have hobbies, connect with your people in different ways, having a replacement for the high energy, very high demand activities with a little bit of a low energy activity. And then also think positively, which is, I have an impromptu off season. So this is where you can start doing things like getting into strength training and be able to bring up certain areas of your body that maybe you had been neglecting before in terms of stability, speed, power, endurance in the training room. Maybe you've never worked out in your life before. This is when you can start really taking advantage of the off season and strength train in a healthy way, obviously not overdoing that, but taking some time to rebuild in some ways the parts of you that are not so strong, not doing so good. So that is another way to positively think about it. And then the last thing is really have a better game plan. So once you get out of your phase of feeling burnt out, whether it be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, once you get out of this position where you are experiencing burnout, have a game plan going in for the next time to avoid this. So whether it be having a week or 2 week taper in a training block, having a complete rest week in a training block, having your training block be shorter in duration than you normally had it prior, strategically adding in miles in a way that is smart and is not going to set you up for failure down the road. Hire a coach, hire a strength coach, hire a run coach, hire a nutritionist if you need to. Hire the people that really go and get help elsewhere, and if you need it, if you need that extra accountability and mastery in your programming and the way that you structure your training week. But the biggest thing that I would say, and going back to the deep stuff mentally, is really truly understand that it's not forever if you do not want it to be forever. It is something that you can and will get through. And also understand that when you begin to decrease activities and get to a place where you are really trying to navigate the burnout, you've recognized that it's there, you recognize that you need to do something about it, and you begin to do something about it. One, having grace for yourself, and two, having patience in that you are not going to feel good tomorrow. You might not feel good for another week or two. And that's not just physically, that's also mentally. There's going to be a position where you've taken time off, you're giving yourself a rest. And for me, it was, I would almost feel guilty for enjoying it. And then also when I was still experiencing symptoms psychologically, when I was really still feeling quite down, very depressed, very much wanting to be on my own, I would not necessarily embrace that, but I would recognize that I had to get to a place where I recognize that it's not necessarily just going to fix itself and clear up after, 1 or 2 good nights of sleep or a week off of training. This is something that had been building over a couple of years, and truly it had been building over probably a year and a half, and has culminated into this thing now that's become an issue that it's not going to solve itself in the next week. It's going to take some time. And for me, getting out of a place of burnout took realistically probably close to half of a year for me, when I was, from time that I really got blood work, recognized that it was a problem. So this was longer than the actual period. This is when I decided to start saying, fuck this, I'm going to actually treat this thing. It took me about 6 months to get to a place of feeling good again, and not feeling like if I had 1 week of overtraining, it was just completely throwing me off, because that is another thing. Slowly adding in volume is crucial. If you start feeling good, and even mentally, physically, everything, you're just like, wow, I feel so much better. I feel rested. I feel motivated to go back to, I love my job again. I love my sport again. I love my family again. I love life again. I'm ready to get back into it. There are times in which you'll get back into it, and then once you've gotten back into it, you'll go full send, and you feel, or maybe even not full send in your mind, but you'll rapidly increase training volume or intensity, and you start feeling those symptoms again. Recognize that those are not symptoms to be ignored. Recognize that is your body essentially saying, we have not fully gotten to a place where we are really out of the burnout. You are much better, but you're not there yet. You have got to slow your roll. And so that would happen to me, where I would start adding in, I felt good, I felt ready to go, and I would start adding in my normal training schedule, what I thought was my normal training schedule, and I would go right back into it. I would go right back into a state of feeling extreme fatigue, body aches. I was not able to handle the training volume that I was prescribing myself. And on top of all of that, I was going back to feeling extremely down, extremely depressed. I started feeling like I was retreating again, isolating again, and just getting into a really bad mental space. And so I had to essentially listen to my body. And you wouldn't think that would be so difficult, but it really is, because in a world in which you're trying to, in a hustle culture society, and a world in which you're trying to, get a lot done. And in fairness, maybe it's not just like, I want to go conquer. It's like you're really excited to do things, like to live life and to experience life, to work hard, to build something. When you're doing all of these things, you are really towing the line in terms of of effort and energy and your body's ability to recover. And so I think there's a period of time in which I would naturally ignore any symptoms of burnout because I thought, screw it. I'm just working. I'm just out here doing the thing with the stuff, and that's okay. And I won't feel good all the time. And that's also important to know too. You're not going to feel good all the time. Even now that I'm out of this state of burnout, I don't feel good all the time. There are definitely weeks where I'm like, this is not fun. But it doesn't mean that I'm back there. And for me, it took going into a place of just complete and utter to really be like, oh yeah, so that is burnout. And now I know that that's real. And so for you guys, if you all are experiencing this or have experienced this, I hope this can be something that's like fairly relatable or helpful for you, something that you could share with somebody who you might be thinking that they're experiencing it. And maybe you have a runner friend that you were training with and you haven't seen them at the track in a while. Or you've been having conversations with them on runs where they just really have been showing these symptoms and sharing these symptoms. I think this is something that could be helpful for people. I wish that I had had something like this. I wish I had had somebody tell me that burnout is real, because I actually, rightfully, some people over-exaggerate burnout and what it is and just use it as an excuse to rest. But for a lot of the endurance community, you guys are good at working hard. So it's oftentimes not you guys being lazy. And in my case, it wasn't either. And so I would see, burnout's not real, whatever, just, take a rest day, get over it. And I had no grace for myself, and I didn't trust my own body. I didn't trust my own mind telling me, you got to stop. And I wish I had had a video like this of somebody being like, hey, so as somebody who, I'm not some hyper successful person, but does enjoy working hard and pushing myself, you can get burnt out. Turns out it will really, really mess you up for quite some time. So, and you do have this shouldn't be like a justification to, believe yourself, but your body's probably not lying to you. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say to you guys this week. So this is my podcast on burnout. If you've experienced it, I'm sorry. If you are experiencing it, I am very sorry, but hopefully those tips will help. And as far as getting good sleep, the last thing, I cannot believe I brushed over this, but as far as, getting good sleep is concerned, because when you're experiencing burnout, you can be really tired, but also not able to sleep because you have high stress. Having a great wind down routine is super important to me. And that means being very strict about like not eating a few hours before bed, having a little bit of water, a couple hours before bed, having a calming, tea, having the lights dim, having no electronics around. This is when it's like a non-negotiable. You have to be kind of the monk mode, that, like an unrealistic nighttime routine, that you have to have the unrealistic nighttime routine because you need to sleep. You have to sleep, and you have to be able to get to a place where you can sleep soundly through the night, undisturbed. So those are my tips for getting proper sleep, because there is nothing that will get you out of burnout faster than a long period of great sleep, for reals. We could also get into like nutrition and gut health, but that is not necessarily my area of expertise. I got myself out of it by decreasing my stress, training volume, getting better sleep, truly, and then fixing my gut, which was getting some fermented foods and a really awesome probiotic. I recommend Visbiome. That's what I used, and that's what helped me. But again, I'm not a nutritionist, so the nutritional stuff you will have to talk to that kind of person about. But next week, you guys, what is next week? Next week, hi, I'm recording this super early, so I don't know what you guys have next week. Next week, you guys have Veronica on the podcast. It's going to be a good one. This is like a Debbie Downer episode, and her and I's episode is literally just on all things ranting, just complete pet peeves on gyms, people in gyms, clients, pet peeves that we have with other trainers. It's a really fun episode. We also totally shit talk ourselves, and so stay tuned. Next week, it gets more cheery, you all. So until then, stay unburnt out, and I'll see you all next week.